Life is stranger than fiction. And it's even stranger when you take a look at the lori-vallow-and-chad-daybell case out of Idaho. Let's go ahead and take a look at that case again today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back at it again, taking a look at lori-vallow and Chad Daybell and these twisted, slow moving cases. I remind you that as of today, we are now 3 years from the date of the first charges being filed. Over 3 years. We have been waiting long enough for justice to start its wheels in motion to actually get to the point where a trial begins in either one of these two cases. 3+ years. So let's take a look at Chad Daybell first and the newest motions that have been filed by Chad Daybell and his defense team, mainly Mr. Pryor. The first motion that Chad Daybell and Mr. Pryor have filed is that they are still missing DNA evidence in this case, 2 pieces to be exact, and the forensics reports behind those 2 pieces, numbered 15 and number 16 in the state's evidence log, that those pieces of evidence have yet to be received. The reports are both dated 4 months ago and 5 months ago, that these 2 pieces of evidence have somehow not made it their way to Mr. Pryor. And with that, since they have not received them, they are asking for additional time to extend out the trial date to a later date so they can hire expert witnesses to go over those 2 pieces of additional evidence to be able to put on a defense if those pieces of evidence are, should be used against Chad or if they should be used against Lori. But they are asking for additional time in that. The second motion that Chad Daybell, through his attorney, Mr. Pryor, have filed is the motion to sever the case, saying that they are not able to aid, and give Chad Daybell a complete defense because the case is connected to lori-vallow. They want to be able to have the defense that it wasn't me who did this. I had no idea. It was all her and her wacky brother. They're the ones who did this. We want to argue that they are the ones that did it, or at least have that option. But I can't do that. I can't offer that defense for my client, Mr. Pryor, saying, if the cases are connected. So they are asking for them again to be severed and to be moved into 2 separate cases. Now, Chad Daybell has filed a waiver to waive his right to a speedy trial. It could be moved out 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years from now. But he has waived his right to a speedy trial. So his constitutional rights are intact, and there is no issue there. Now, let's take a look at lori-vallow. When looking at the case, the state of Idaho versus lori-vallow, obviously the case is a lot more convoluted than in the case against Chad Daybell. First off, from the time of extradition back to the state of Idaho, and they filed the charges against lori-vallow, the clock started ticking right then and there. The moment she entered the plea of not guilty on all the charges against her, the clock started ticking for her constitutional rights to a speedy trial. They must start the actual proceedings within, generally, it's 6-month period from the point of her entering the actual motion. She's asking that all of the charges against her be dismissed because they have violated her, not only Idaho state constitutional laws and her rights, but the U.S. constitutional rights that she has by not starting the trial within that period of time. So if you look at the time that she was actually arraigned until they put the stay in, it was not quite 6 months. And then the entire case, we had a stay put in because she needed to be sent off for restorative care. And that was only about 40 days that she was actually gone and, receiving restorative care. Was she able to aid during that period of time beforehand? Well, obviously, through her attorneys, they have, brought up several different occurrences, and they're the ones who asked about her mental competency. So where does the gray line fall of well, she's obviously not able to aid in her own defense, and we need to stop this now and before the actual court order was entered. Additionally, the time after her mental health was reevaluated and she was determined to be able to aid in her own defense, they're counting that time as well and saying that her constitutional rights are violated from that point. If you're not going to look at this point, look at from the time that she came back to now, and the trial hasn't started, and she has not, I repeat, waived her right to a speedy trial. So, in this case, they are saying, well, her rights were violated, and she needs to be, have these, charges dismissed against her. Will they do it? No, they're not going to do it. But it is something that will come up on appeal later on. Additionally, another motion that has been filed with the court there in Ada County, because that's where the case for Lori-Vallow and Chad Daybell will be taking place, is a motion to reconsider that has been filed with Judge Boyce in this case to reconsider having cameras in the courtroom. JJ's grandparents have asked again. They stating, to East Idaho News that they understand not having the cameras in the courtroom for the trial motions, all of these motions, not having the cameras there. They understand that. They understand not having the cameras in the courtroom when it comes to selection of the jury member. It would be a severe inconvenience to the family who cannot come to the state of Idaho to watch this actual trial to make sure that these two accused individuals are tried to the fullest extent of the law, and it is done so in a manner. Because the family has the right, and you have the right, to an open and fair courtroom. And that means if the option is available to have it telecasted, it should be telecasted. And yes, they can put it on delay so it's not live. But why did Judge Boyce, why did the prosecution, Mr. Wood, why did they all agree that, no cameras in the courtroom? They want them to reconsider that. For at least for the victims. They want them to reconsider it. So, that's where we're at today, ladies and gentlemen. Here, in the case of Lori-Vallow and Chad Daybell. Like any high-profile case that has ever been, discovered out there and has been through the court system, especially now in the day of the internet and everyone having a smartphone, people theorize around what really is going on in these cases. Number one, the conspiracy that has been going around is the entire thing, the bumbling fool known as Mr. Means, was actually part of a conspiracy theory along with Judge Boyce and the state, Mr. Woods, that to draw out the case as long as possible. So therefore giving Lori-Vallow the option to say that her constitutional rights were violated. And the theory behind that is they are all members of the Church of Latter-day Saints, or that at least the church is involved somewhere in the background and convinced the judge, Mr. Means, and Mr. Pryor, and the court system itself to draw out the case as long as possible. The second conspiracy theory behind this case is that the entire thing will never meet an actual end. That the entire thing has got a plan, I guess, if you will, behind it all, where Lori and Vallow, along with, Chad Daybell, the two of them will meet their makers. They will actually finish off what they started. And by that, I mean the following. Before they were ever apprehended and they had, absconded to Hawaii, we found out that Lori-Vallow and Chad-Daybell, through their learnings, their doomsday prophecy, had an end date to everything. That everybody who needed to cross over to the other side of the veil to be saved, to be part of their group, had already done so. And that they had a date that they had to get to so they would be able to cross over themselves. Is there a conspiracy theory that there's actually a second date for Lori and for Chad, and that somewhere along the line, as this trial goes forward, that the two of them will take their own lives while in jail when no one is looking, when the jail system's guards are down, because they're thinking this is just another case of two wackanuts in jail who are standing trial on serious charges. Is that what's really going on here? Well, thank you for joining me today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you found today's information about this case to be helpful. If you did, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing today so you'll be notified of when I upload the next video here on 411 Now.